Okay, today talking about e-commerce. Enhanced e-commerce tracking through Google Analytics. If you don't know what this is, well, you can actually track your e-commerce store via Google Analytics and track purchases, track purchase ID, transaction IDs, so you could actually see sales on your shopping cart backend, match up with Google Analytics. You can do a few other things to monitor the people that are buying through your shopping cart, who they are, what they do, that kind of thing. By default, the easier install here is just the traditional or regular, you just want to call it that, e-commerce tracking in Google Analytics. So you have Google Analytics, and then if you go a step further, you could set up e-commerce tracking in Google Analytics. And if you go the final step, you can go to enhanced e-commerce tracking, which is what this video is about. It's going to specifically tell you if you should do it, why you should do it, and more specifically why I do it. Being a 15-year practitioner of running e-commerce businesses, managing them, so on and so forth, why I think you should ultimately use it based upon what I found it most useful for, even though it can be used for a few other things. So what is enhanced e-commerce tracking by Google Analytics, and why I think personally it is important, therefore why you should also consider using it if you're in a few of these different situations I'm going to mention. So to start off the video though, I will quickly just jump in and say that this setup actually does take some time. It's hard enough as is to set up any kind of e-commerce tracking. Going a step further, like I said, you're going to set up this enhanced e-commerce tracking. It's going to be even more difficult. And so respectively, if you don't have anybody to do this for you, what you're probably going to need is somebody who specializes in Google Tag Manager. You're going to have to hire that person. And trust me, there's a bunch of bad ones. So don't think anybody who says they're going to do it is going to do it right. I'll just give you that general disclaimer. It's like anything else. Computer programmer, there's for every good one, there's 9 bad ones. And you may have to go through a few to find the one that actually can do it right. So don't give up. If you run an e-commerce business, I absolutely do think that you should do it, regardless of how much hassle it takes to actually get it set up. You should do it. I would do it if I'm still running my own e-commerce sites and businesses that I used to run several sites myself before I got into consulting. So anyway, it will take some extra effort to get that set up. It's worth it at the end of the day to do that. I'll just say, like any other tracking that you're going to do with like goal tracking, if you're not tracking purchases, if you're selling something for more than $100, I always recommend when you're doing e-commerce, you track phone calls coming in. You track, especially if you do virtual terminal or orders where somebody can call and you take their credit card over the phone. You especially want to do call tracking through a software. What I would recommend, CallRail, form tracking. So you have all the extra data that you can use. Obviously, because a lot of people delay their purchases, and so whereas you won't see somebody come in, click, go to a site and buy right away, they will call more so right away. And at least then you now can tie a little bit better back to the source of your traffic is that's triggering your purchases, which is ultra important to decide what you should be finishing or spending your marketing on, and more so who it is that actually are calling. Therefore, of course, turning into a purchase at some point, so you can drill down your advertising to male versus female, desktop versus mobile, that kind of thing. What state, region they're from, all that stuff has an impact on what your returns are, and you could turn a bad return into a good one just by, the 80% that don't really produce most of your returns. You're just weeding it out, and you got to have data to do that. You set up that tracking, so eventually down the road when you need the data and you have enough data to actually, let's say, do it, make those kind of revisions with it, you have it. You don't go, oh, well, let's try out PPC. Oh, it doesn't work. And then you come to someone like me, assuming you find someone like me, if you had the data, you could easily weed out the stuff that didn't work and you have the return you want now. But now you have no data because you didn't go ahead and set up the tracking. You thought that you were going to turn on this advertising, it was just going to work like magic. If anything was that easy, your competitors would be doing it already. and you didn't, now you're going to have to run your ads for another 6 months with your tracking hooked up so you can get that data. And that 6 months is going to be another painful 6 months because you don't have the data. It's going to run just as crappy as it was. So you just take my word for it and do it now. Do the tracking as soon as possible so that eventually you have the data. The data is more so the value of what you're getting from your advertising through whether it's Google Ads or Facebook or anything before it starts working, because it's going to tell you exactly how your ads should be run and which it would run if you wanted it to run profitably, i.e. you are able to not just shut off certain things but bid less. Mobile may be worth something, but it's worth it only if you pay 20 cents a click versus $1 on desktop, that kind of thing. And it's all, half of what you're doing is just math, and you got to have data to do the math. So with all that said, this e-commerce tracking, this is the same thing. You may have regular e-commerce tracking set up. You may not know the things that the things I'm going to give you here today, which is what my point of all this is. But you eventually may, and don't wait until you need to do it, because now you're going to have to wait 6 more months before you can do it. Just do it for yourself in advance. You're going to build up a nice big fat data set that you can use to do certain things with later on. And it's all ready to go and ready at your disposal at any given time or moment that you need to do it. Of course, some of this stuff, if you set up the e-commerce tracking today, enhanced e-commerce tracking today, you can start using it within a week or two already, based upon what I say that I actually specifically use it for. But in general, do yourself a favor, collect the data, get the full value of what you're spending on your advertising, which is what's telling you what you should be doing more of or what you should be doing less of, and how to move stuff that you're spending from what's producing less than average to above average to leverage that stuff more. I'll get into specifically though what I use enhanced e-commerce tracking for, and so you can pick up some handy ways to improve your business using that tool specifically for yourself. So here's the 3 main tools I use on for e-commerce enhanced e-commerce tracking for. Okay, so there's 3 main things that I use, even though there's a bunch of things that you can do with it as mentioned. You may do stuff that I'm not mentioning here, but these are my main go-tos out of the dozens of accounts that I work on, at not any given time, but in general. These are the things that I make 80% of the time, if I'm going to use it at all, what I'm using it on, so you can pick up some information of what's possible if you haven't thought of it already. First of all, the one thing that enhanced e-commerce tracking can do that the regular analytics, Google Analytics e-commerce tracking can't do is to track refunds. Now, I get kind of pelted all the time from certain clients. We say, our sales are XYZ. Then they'll say, but it isn't really a 5-to-1 return because we had refunds. And then I can't argue with them on that fact. But if we don't have enhanced e-commerce tracking, then I can't see it. And generally speaking, I'm setting up enhanced e-commerce tracking by default now, because I know that's came up enough in the past where I just set this up by default, even though it is harder, because I want to be able to see that data. But it does tell you about the refunds, so you can see what your true, what they call ROAS, return on an account spend, which is revenue divided by your ad spend. Because I'm a PPC guy, and this is what I specialize in, is PPC, or just a return on an investment is another way to put it. But, so you could see what your return is like that, but you can also measure return rates by source. So, what is your return rate for PPC traffic through Google Ads? What is it through Facebook PPC? What is it through, and by the way, it's Facebook pay-per-click, because you don't pay for ad space by impression. There's just a misnomer out there that PPC is Google search advertising. It's not. It's anything that you pay per click on the web. You could check to see different PPC sources, what are the return rates, and you would be surprised how much of a difference it is per source. You could drill down, so it's not about what your return rates are. You drill down and you could see where the returns are actually piling up from, if you see a spike, or if they're going down, what happened, why they're going down, or is it a fluke, or what have you. So you can see where there's a problem, particularly if if it spikes, you can drill down, see where it's coming from, and then you can track back what changes did you make in the last 3 months that potentially would have triggered that, and maybe back that up or back that out for yourself. So that's your typical common how you're going to act on the data, if you will. But if sometimes, and I recommend you experiment with this, because I have a video about using like a Klarna and these different pay later services. You could do a 30-day money back guarantee on any product basically that you sell, to where they buy it and you're already having to accept returns anyway. So in a way, it's kind of like a trick, like a confidence trick a little bit. But you can, obviously return policy may not be 30 days all the time, so it is a little bit more than what you would normally offer anyway. But just the fact that you say 30-day money back trial or guarantee, that'll get your conversion rates up a little bit. But if you do that, you will notice that you're going to definitely get a few people, whether it's measurable or not, because that'll depend on what product you're selling and what traffic source you're getting your traffic from. People taking advantage, getting it, using it, returning it, and had no intention of buying it in the first place. Particularly, this is a big problem with digital products and obviously clothing. And you may have to add stipulations to do it in some of these markets, whatever. With that said, you can offer that, try it out for yourself, and be protected from, or should I say at least know when you do that, is it what you're doing going to pan out with the increase in returns you're going to get? So I recommend you do it, but I recommend you do it with this enhanced e-commerce tracking set up so you can see how much your return rates go up along with it. And by the way, if you do get a good return there, why not go 60-day trial? Why not go 90-day trial? Because that oftentimes for us will also increase the amount of money that you're going to make profit on certain set amount of ad spend. So you can do that you can change just one ad from one source, put 30-day money back guarantee in the ad, and you could technically, there's tools out there to where if somebody clicks on that ad, you're going to take them to a page on your e-commerce site that has the 30-day money back guarantee, whereas other traffic sources, it won't render that, or you could just obviously set up a separate static page to test that out. But bottom line, there are ways that you obviously can just try it on one medium, switch it on, see how it does on the returns, how it increases your revenue, and then how that factors out in terms of total revenue minus the refunds that you had to give, essentially, and the added cost of having the return shipping and all of that is my point here. So you can track your refunds, how much they go up. For me, respectively, I wouldn't even track, when I was getting into that, I wouldn't even, if you're going to try the 30-day money-back guarantee experiment, do it on just one ad on one specific keyword that's a high-traffic keyword, or don't try a whole channel by itself. You can actually drill down just to one ad as long as you tag the ad with UTM parameters. You can Google that, but essentially in Google Analytics then you can see from the purchases you got from one ad from one source how they went up compared to they were before, or sometimes you'll have to do a year-over-year analysis because you can't compare December to November. You have to compare December to last year's December, how much the revenue went up, and then obviously what your returns are. So anyway, this tool inside the enhanced e-commerce tracking suite of tools that they have there could be very helpful, and that's specifically a way that I can use that to make money right away, and just in general. And you may not need the data now on your refunds, but long term, 3 years from now, you might be curious, like I said, to see where returns went up and went down, and maybe speculate why to fix it and optimize for that. So anyway, that's the very first thing I'm going to do the return tracking through enhanced e-commerce tracking for. Second one is discount codes. So you can track discount codes inside enhanced e-commerce tracking. So if you have if you're not using discount codes at all, obviously you should be, because you can do certain things. You can run promotions, and because you're offering a short-term promotion or discount, people will actually absolutely buy at a higher rate than they normally would otherwise. You could have the same person that had the same propensity to buy. You add in there a small 10% offer, and you're not going to get just a little bit more sales. You'll potentially double the amount of people that are going to buy on the same exact amount of people in the same exact situations there. Therefore, your 10% is okay because now you doubled your gross revenue and actually ended up with more overall profit. I did a video about running sales, how to run them the way that usually gets you the most profit and what works the most of the time. Most of the time for us, you can search for that if you want, but you can track individual discount codes, how many people used in total those discount codes, and then from within there you can drill down even further by source of traffic and whatever. So, but with all that said, it can actually, it gets a little tricky as I was running some different maths and scenarios there on my video about how to run a sale effectively for your e-commerce business, that you have to factor in, not just, you have to look at the overall sales, but you have to look at what you're offering in terms, usually it's a money financial discount most of the time to get a reaction out of your audience and jump your overall sales. It has to be a discount you're offering. You got to now be able to look at your gross sales minus your discount, and enhanced e-commerce tracking can help you calculate that on the fly better. Obviously, you have to then also factor in if you got an increase in returns, which this, also the tool does. So you could look at offering 10% discount on a promotion, whether I recommended before, you can do this on a search ad to make your click-through rates on a search ad on Google work better. It can be on a display ad. It can be done through remarketing. And once you've tried 10%, you should try, if it works for you, which it should, because 10 to 20% is usually the sweet spot. And if you have tight margins, you do 10% as long as it's over $100 or $200, something like that. Then you try 15%, then you try 20%, right? And then beyond that, you can see there's other things you can obviously test, and depending on how motivated you are, you can find out what's working for you. But you can do that, and you can then see a database of these different discount codes where you've tested different amounts. Maybe you've tested it instead of 7 days versus 10. 7 to 10 days is about the sweet spot on a promotion, but which one of those actually do you want to use? And it's a great tool, and not that you say you can't do this manually, but it keeps a great running tab and all your data in one place there. And so respectively, you could track, discount codes inside your back end of your shopping cart, but in Google Analytics, you can do it there. But you can also do one other side thing with the discount codes that you may not be thinking of, which is to track online sources. So if you want to track something that's not on, any of your PPC campaigns, what if you want to track a affiliate? Well, you can have a discount code, and you can see all the sales for that particular affiliate, and then see how many that came in. Did they have a high refund rate, i.e. is there maybe some fraud there, whatever. So online sources, but also a lot of people don't think about offline sources. What if you have have some sort of service that is good for people who get in some sort of, divorce. You're getting a divorce. You offer, basically some service regarding that product, informational products, and you're trying to get the attorney's office to suggest and then giving them a kickback, i.e. a affiliate cut or whatever, and you can give them the discount code, and that's one way to not only track that, but you may pay them straight out to put it in some sort of, I've seen people actually they have, like at a doctor's office, they'll have like a brochure that they give every patient, and inside that brochure, they offer, the person goes to, XYZ and get some, something that they suggest using. And then with that, there's a discount code in there. And when they use the discount code, you can track, you're paying set amount to make sure it's in every brochure that they hand out. They had a brochure before, you're paying to get placement in the brochure, not paying amount per sale, but you can have a discount code, and it says if you enter a discount code, you're going to get X, Y, Z. And then obviously you could see all the sales that come from that brochure at that point. Obviously you could also track it through having a separate landing page, right? But the separate landing page, by the way, is tricky because a lot of people won't type in the landing page. They'll go to Google. You have a discount code with a discount attached to it. A lot more people will do that and be trackable that way than having them go to a separate landing page, because people, they go to Google, they type stuff in. A lot of times they'll just go to the home page and they just won't worry about the landing page part. So it's just the reason why you would do something like that. But that's the other thing about why enhanced e-commerce tracking is good. The third and the final reason is about funnel tracking. So a lot of you guys, this may not certainly apply, of course, but and I should say it should, if you're trying to get more sales from an e-commerce business, one thing that you should absolutely always be doing is doing cart abandonment testing. And so one thing you'll be able to see is if you have a funnel and there's potentially a landing page that goes ahead of the product page on your shopping cart itself, and then there's the cart after that, then there's the checkout page, and then there's the success page. You can track the amount of people that get through each one of those stages, or as many stages as you like to create. And but specifically from the product page to the checkout page to the success page, after they've already they got into the part where they're getting to the physical cart aspect of your site, you got to but you certainly should split test what trust element should go in there, because there's a way bigger effect on your overall abandonment rate and therefore your sales and the amount of money you're going to make based upon how that cart's set up. And a lot of people don't think about this. Fundamental thing people do all the time I see is they have too many things to click on the checkout. Some people think that you need to have a navigation there, so if people get to the checkout and they need to get something else, they can find something else. Maybe that'll be fine. A lot of times even that will hurt your conversion rate or your people that checkout rate. Obviously it would be up, because if a lot of people leave, it's going to go up, but maybe they come back and so on and so forth. But the general thing is you don't want to have them click on anything. You have the logo. There's no buttons to click out, and if no social icons, no, anything. So that's number one. Number two, the trust icons that have little padlock or stuff like that, that increases conversion rates. You should test having that on there. Unfortunately, for a cart like Shopify, they don't allow you to have that on there and change that, which is why using a mainstream cart instead of an open source like Magento sucks, because you can't change stuff like that, and that might affect 1 or 2% of your revenue forever, because you can't add those out. There's a reason why the big sites, you go ahead and look around and see, they all use that. So, but they'll let you track where people exit and to what percentage do they exit, and you can actually go ahead and add an element, see how that changes things, add another element, and then get another, like I said, maybe 1 to 5% more revenue for your business just by optimizing your checkout. Those are the two main things that you could change, but there's other things. Anything that makes it confusing, getting it out of the way. There's some other stuff you can do. I'm not going to get into all the details, but those are the big ones, just as a quick side tip. The other thing you can do is landing pages. So depending on how much your product is and how complicated it is, I'm going to generally have for anything over a couple $100 and it's a little bit technical at all, I'm going to have a sales page that I'm going to take people to from a PPC ad that just sells the person before they even get to the product page on the site. Why? Because the product page generally doesn't have that good of details on it. Sometimes you can send it there, but you need a long sales page that go through each and every aspect and benefit of that product, small FAQ, and then when they get to the bottom of the page, then they can go on to the actual product page where it lists the price and everything. Well, your sales page that comes before it can list the price, but generally that comes at the bottom, and then you can you can buy it, and then it takes them to the page which has what is on your cart physically, and that way you can customize anything you want on that page and lay it out however you want. And but with that though, you can test having the traffic go to there and then to they click through to go to the product page versus just to the product page, and see how many people. A lot of people think, why would I want to create another hoop for them to go through? Well, I could promise you, yes, it's going to slow some people down, but with the people that go to the product page, it's going to convert at like 10 times the rate it would have otherwise. So it's about increasing the conversion rate of the people who hit the product page by weeding some people out up front, but overall you're going to get more sales. So a lot of people don't want to do this because it's so much work to put together a good product sales page, and you have to do it for every product that you offer like that. But you can make as much as twice as much money from the same exact traffic doing that. So once you have that product page, you can justify it to whoever you need to justify it to, or if you're the boss, then you don't obviously have that, but you can add a product page, a sales page there in front, and see how it works. And then you can, of course, test different elements on it and watch what in the enhanced e-commerce tracking funnel menu there, how many people are leaking out and what the overall, because leaking out, like I said, that's going to happen, and some of it you want. You want to be able to track how many people leaked out before they got, in other words, how many people never got to the product page, and how many people got to the end, because just because there's more people leaking out doesn't mean that's everything. You need to see both. Did they get it? All we care about is did they get to the end and purchase at a higher rate. But the fact that you're watching how many people leak out, that's also useful in terms of your split testing on your sales page that stands before people get to the e-commerce platform itself, Shopify, whatever you have. That sales page that comes before people get to your product page, I'm usually making that like an unbounce. So it's just to butter or warm up and get the user excited, and then you get them onto the site. So you can do that kind of testing. I put multi-stage ordering, so that's kind of what I guess you could call multi-stage ordering, the sales page description I gave you there to some degree. But what I'm talking about mainly here about the multi-stage ordering is more and more the people that are going to win in e-commerce, in anything that basically there's any kind of customization in, is somebody who puts together a do-it-yourself configuration platform. Like for instance, somebody who sells custom bracelets, you want to, as a user, just go through and just type in what you want. You click on something, the image automatically changes so you can see what it looks like. Then you go on to the next stage and do the same thing there, to the point where you don't have to interact with anybody. The problem with that is, by the way, that it takes someone so talented, it's not so talented, it takes someone talented to make the user experience on that well, or at least well enough to beat what a salesperson can do over the phone and just get them on the phone quickly, that most people screw it up when they try it for the first time. Why? Because they hire subpar people. You will make more money, I can tell you for a fact, that if you get that configurator right, but it's only done or possible when you got skilled people who understand user psychology and user experience, and you got a good person like myself doing the high level planning, and then you have really good designers behind them, $150K a year designers doing the design. And it's a very involved process. To make a good checkout process like that, a lot of times will be like $250K to get each and every element right, to beat what you're going to be able to beat on, instead of taking to a page and say, talk to a sales agent now and have a good salesperson or a decent salesperson on the phone. If you already have in your niche, like in that niche I just described, you already got people that have got this down, especially if there's multiple people. Unfortunately, I could tell you, if you don't get your act together and do that pretty soon, you're going to be cut out, because they have so much an advantage over you. Then they're going to get more revenue per dollar spent, and they're going to reinvest that back into ads, and eventually they're just going to cut you out. This has been the way of the world for the last 15 years with PPC in general anyway, or in online business in general. Your model is so inefficient in terms of what your user experience is on your site to order, you'll slowly be bitten or drained dry by the people with the more efficient model. So you may not want to invest that $250K because it's a huge investment up front, kind of sketchy, you don't know what sure about it, and that you'll eventually be cut by a million cuts and you'll die anyway, or you'll try to do it but you won't be sure of yourself, so you'll only spend a little bit of money doing it, and then it won't work, or you'll do that and then you'll be, oh, that doesn't work, I'm just going to stick to it. So I'm just trying to give you some general advice so it will work, and that you should focus on that sooner than later. But if you have that process, going back to the topic at hand, you could test each and every individual step, each individual click. If there's a menu where there's multiple choices and they have to click this box and click this box and click this box, technically, as far as I know, you cannot track that with e-commerce tracking. They have to actually physically click to the next stage. I'm sure there's a way to do it, and I just haven't done it yet, to where you can see what person dropped out, when they got to this checkbox versus this checkbox. But for something like that, I'm going to use on top of it Visual Website Optimizer, Optimizely, something like that, and I'm going to do a video recording of the sessions, so I can physically see how many people are getting stuck on an individual step, and I can test taking steps out, and then I can see how many people get through that particular menu as a whole. And so you need to spend a lot of money, and you got to have the right team on it to get it right. But even then, you're going to have to go through a lot of testing to make sure that, because you're not going to get it perfect the first time unless you have an amazing team, and good luck finding the amazing people. They're already hired by somebody else to get through it and set everything up. But definitely you could test how many people get to each stage, and then you can use that to understand which stages is the weakest, therefore which ones you should split test first, and then so on and so forth. So anyway, you get that. That's one thing you can do with the e-commerce, enhanced e-commerce tracking, and I think that's pretty much it for this video. If you like this video, I have a ton of other money-making PPC strategy techniques on this YouTube channel. If you want to make some money with PPC and you're ambitious to do so, you should check those out. I have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how I build campaigns for our clients, in which we have to guarantee the results. And if you like information along those lines, you can find it there. If you have any questions or comments, anything you think I should have covered here and did not, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel within a day or two, personally. And with that, hope you enjoyed. Hope that this info makes you